Earthquakes, fires, and brownouts. Good morning, Southern California. Welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm Reba Tony. Now, it's been a summer of record-breaking temperatures across the U.S., but for Southern California, we've seen soaring temperatures, and it means a forecast of peak electricity usage. How can you minimize the chance of a brownout in your neighborhood? Sustainable Energy Authority Ted Flanagan of EcoMotion is here in studio to shine some light on this subject. Now, last time we spoke with him, the controversy over San Onofre nuclear plant was raging. Since that Joy in Our Town airing, the San Onofre nuclear plant has been shut down indefinitely. Now we're asking him how that's going to affect energy consumers in Orange County. Will your family be left in the dark? And then coming up, we're going to get plugged into whether electric cars are really the answer to our gas guzzling problems on the West Coast. Southern Californians really do love their SUVs. What does that mean for you? Okay, let's get to talking about carbon footprints right here this summer. Hi, Ted.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks for being here.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
Now I've got to worry about my carbon footprint as well. I feel like I've got a lot going on. Do I have to worry about the carbon too? What does that mean for us? Does it really impact how much money is coming in and out of my house?
Well, it's not going to impact that directly,
okay.
But to answer your question about your carbon footprint, I think it's fair to say that there's a great consensus of the world's atmospheric scientists that we've got a problem with too much carbon dioxide and carbon dioxide equivalent gases in the atmosphere.
Okay, so let's just look at this for a second. So we breathe in oxygen and we breathe out carbon dioxide, right?
Yep.
That's what I think I learned that in 5th grade.
And plants do just the opposite. They breathe in carbon dioxide and they respire oxygen.
And they breathe out oxygen.
Yeah. So we need more plants.
Oh,
and
that
less
makes
people.
sense.
Well, that's not right. That's not right to say. But we as a society, we use a tremendous amount of fossil fuels, hydrocarbons stored in the earth, and we bring them up and we burn them in power plants and we burn them in our cars and we burn them in our factories and our fireplaces and our barbecues. And the net result of that is that we have this buildup of carbon dioxide equivalent gases or greenhouse gases in the atmosphere or in the troposphere, which is only about 12 miles thick, 20 kilometers
Which means
thick.
less oxygen is what I'm assuming.
Well, the issue is not oxygen.
The
issue is this imbalance of gases in our atmosphere that's causing a change of the climate.
Okay.
And so we have more fires. We're seeing that this summer. We're having more droughts, more intense tornadic, I love that, tornadic activity, fires, floods, droughts, famines. I mean, the whole, it's a cacophony of heightened or elevated weather patterns that are causing havoc. Look at Hurricane Sandy or Subtropical Storm Sandy. Now there, you asked about money in your pocketbook.
Right.
Does this carbon imbalance in our society, in our global society, cause us any money? Well, people in New York would certainly say yes, to the tune of billions of dollars. Billions of dollars. So when
it also seems like it would if there was, because just talking about it with you now, I'm thinking, wow, if we're breathing in oxygen and out carbon dioxide, basically, just for the average person that's watching at home, trying to wrap their head around this big scientific concept, right? And the plants are doing the opposite, and we have more carbon. Does that really take the place of the oxygen, or is there as much oxygen, or is it dirty, or?
Yeah, you're kind of off on an interesting way of looking at it.
It's an interesting thing. It's the first time I've ever really thought of it that way.
Yeah, and another way of looking at it is in the days when we were hunter-gatherers, and we would wake up in our wigwam and we would go out and hunt, and we would gather firewood. We were respiring. We were releasing. We were taking in oxygen, just like you're saying, and we were respiring about 500 kilograms every year. Now, the average person has a carbon footprint, Californian, of 12 tons, metric tons per year. So,
wow.
24 times that level of respiration, sort of basic hunter-gatherer society. So why is that? That's because we're pumping oil, we're pumping natural gas, we're ripping coal out of the earth. We're oxidating the hydrocarbons and causing these gases. And it's turned into an enormous problem.
That makes so much sense.
All the way back to San Onofre, one of the arguments in favor of nuclear, and I'm not a nuclear advocate, but one of the arguments in favor is that there's no hydrocarbons involved. There's no release of carbon dioxide gases.
I have to be honest with you. When I think of San Onofre, I think of San Ono surfing. Because there's a lot of surfers there. And I know the water's warmer because the plant was there and it was doing was warming up the water.
Does its
now,
cooling there.
And now it's shut down. But that's a nuclear plant, you're saying.
Right.
And it was providing more energy for us.
Yeah, it was providing 2,250 megawatts of energy. So try to put that in perspective. Now, I tend to think of a nuclear plant, one unit, and there's 2 units there in operation at San Onofre. One unit is about a gigawatt, 1,000 megawatts. In the state of California, in the height of summer, typically on a Thursday afternoon, after all those commercial buildings have been heating up all week long, people are hot and bothered and the machines are going, typically we peak out on a Thursday afternoon in California. It's kind of interesting. That's when our state hits around 50 gigawatts of power, 50,000 megawatts. That's 50 of those San Onofre reactors.
Wow.
So we've just taken 2 of them offline. We've taken 5% of our state's electrical capacity offline.
Okay, so these watts of electricity, how many watts does it take for me to run my dishwasher?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably about 100 watts.
100
no
watts.
No big deal, but your hair dryer is more like 1,200 watts.
Oh, really?
Now, fortunately, not everybody's running their hair dryer at the same time.
So that's when it says the watts on my hair dryer,
or your light bulb,
or on a light bulb.
Sure.
That means, I thought that meant that's how hot it got. But you're saying that's how many watts of electricity it takes to run it?
Yes. Yes.
Well, wow.
Yeah. So you add all those up.
Okay.
And you can see why you'd need to have this big, huge power plant.
Yeah.
That is good news.
Well, I always thought more watts the better. You know, it's like whenever you're buying something, you're like, oh, but this one has 1,200 watts. Well, that one only has 800 watts.
Well, now that's your cognitive set is going to be flipped here, because in the energy efficiency world, in the sustainability world, we're trying to get the most productivity out of every single watt.
Out of each
so we don't
watt.
want to use a lot, we want to use a few. And televisions are a great example that they've gone from these very energy intensive, big, huge tubular devices now to these flat screens that use LEDs, light emitting diodes, right? The lights on our Christmas trees have gone from these big incandescent bulbs down to these tiny little light emitting diodes.
But they're still really bright.
Still as bright. Our refrigerator. So a lot of this movement to sustainability is based on advanced technology. That's really good news for people.
Yeah, that is
You
good
don't
news.
have to be colder. You don't have to be hotter. You don't have to be hot and bothered.
Yeah.
We can still have our air conditioning. We can still have our cake and eat it too.
And you see, like, you're at the local home improvement store and you're buying a new appliance and you're excited because you finally get all the appliances that match. They're all the same color. and you see, well, gosh, I don't know, should we get the energy efficient one? I mean, it says that, it's got all this information, but maybe it costs a little bit more, and it gets. But you want to do the right thing as a consumer.
Right. Well, just
but
absolutely.
It makes sense
just
now.
go ahead and buy it. Take my word for it. Pay
but it
that.
Makes sense now.
Here's the way we like to look at this in the world of energy efficiency. Let's say you pay 10% more or 20% more to have a more energy efficient appliance. So let's just say you've spent another $100 to have a more energy efficient appliance. Well, that appliance will save $50 a year more than the non-efficient one. So your payback in that case is 2 years. So after 2 years, you've paid off that $100, what we call marginal cost, or that premium.
Okay.
Now that's pretty good. That means you had a 50% return on your investment. Your money in the banks is not getting that. Your CDs are not getting that.
Right,
your
that's
stocks
true.
are not getting that. Your money markets, nothing is getting the kinds of returns that you can get by energy efficiency investments, whether that's light bulbs or Energy Star appliances, computers, cars. I mean, all these things that have all these energy efficiency opportunities have means for us as a society. And we're concerned about the climate and we're concerned about the carbon footprint. But there's many ways that we can take steps where you're better off, you're more comfortable, you're happier, you've saved money, and you've done your bit for society.
And knowing how it all works in my mind helps me when I'm standing there in front of it and I'm like, okay, I can get this set that is all matching. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's going to save me money down the line, and it's going to help less blackouts or brownouts in my community.
Sure, and that's really what our company is all about. Our byline is the power of the increment. If each of us takes a little step, the cumulative effect is really powerful.
So you're saying if each one of us reduced our energy by maybe 5%,
sure,
we could make up for an entire nuclear plant.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And in fact, we have.
Okay.
You know, California is the most efficient state in the nation. We can be very proud as Californians.
Really? I thought we were the most decadent state in the nation.
We're pretty gluttonous in many ways, and myself included. So there's still opportunities for us. But we, through our building standards, we have the most efficient buildings in the country. Through our promotion of different types of vehicles that we're going to get to in the next segment, we have more electric vehicles and hybrids than any other state in the nation. We have lessened our footprint more than any other state in the nation. So we should be very proud of that. But there's still a lot to be done. And our job is, our company's work is to show that you can do this very cost effectively. Our background is economics and planning, and you can make decisions that are very unwise, or you can make decisions that are very wise. So we try to steer people in that direction.
I have to be honest with you, Ted. When I hear, when we first got into the show and we were talking about carbon footprint, the first thing that came to my mind was like, okay, people are trying to take me like back to the Stone Age. They don't want me to flat iron my hair. They don't want me to wear deodorant. I mean, I really start thinking this, and then it like polarizes me. I'm like, no, I don't want to. But when we start talking about being able to have electricity on, because the worst thing, I live downtown, the worst thing is to come home and there's no electricity in your building and there's no electricity on the block. Like you're saying, Thursday afternoon, the electricity, the peak hours, and you're worried that all your food is going to spoil, that your candles are going to melt.
Well, let's hit on some very specific things before we end this segment about people like you can do in your apartment downtown. We want our air conditioners.
Well,
we need to make sure that our air conditioners are well tuned up. When was the last time you had your filter changed? Probably never, or maybe your building manager, who knows? We don't know. But that tuning up your air conditioner is very important.
I should probably remind them to do it.
Drawing your drapes on your west-facing glass, right? Any west-facing glass takes in a huge amount of heat in that late afternoon, working directly at odds with your air conditioner. Time things in your household so that you're not doing things on peak.
I used to have a house in the hills, and it was west-facing.
Yeah.
And I got it was like a tarp type of awning on all my west-facing windows.
Yeah, and awning makes a big difference.
Huge.
These are really basic technologies. They're really simple things.
And you save a ton of money.
They make our rooms more comfortable to live in. You save a ton of money on your power bill, and you're doing your bit to take care of the climate, which is a legacy we're leaving for our children and their children.
And it helps us to be able to use that energy-efficient flat iron.
It does.
Right?
You can still use your flat iron.
You still can, because you still have electricity. If we use too much, then we have the rolling blackouts, and then we have no electricity. But you're saying if we watch our carbon footprint, then we can reduce the amount of electricity we're using, we can save money, and we can kind of spread it out.
It's really true. And pick the things that are really special to us.
Right.
Because we don't want to have a lesser quality of life. That's not sustainable. We want to have a better quality of life while lessening our impact on the planet.
I like that. I like that a lot. Wow, sustainable energy is good for the planet. Makes me think of Genesis 1:28, where the King James Version of the Bible records God's first instruction to humankind, saying, God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth. Replenish. I think that means to care for the earth and to renew it and sustain it. Renewable and sustainable energy. I think we might be onto something. Stay with us. We're talking about the vehicle you're driving and how that could be sustainable. Next.
Hi TBN viewers, I'm Brad Dacus, attorney and president of the Pacific Justice Institute. What's more American than baseball? Well, that's why the city of Lake Elsinore chose to place a new war memorial right in front of a baseball stadium. Oh, but not so fast. You see, the American Humanist Association decided to file a lawsuit challenging the war memorial as being an unconstitutional violation of the, quote, separation of church and state. Their objection rested on the fact that the war memorial was a depiction, partially, of a World War II cemetery, where it has grave markings, crosses, and stars of David. They allege that the mere usage of these symbols, even in the context of a cemetery, was unconstitutional. Well, we at the Pacific Justice Institute disagree. And that's why we have stepped onto the field to defend the city of Lake Elsinore and the constitutionality of being able to use cemetery symbols to make a valid secular point. to remember those who've died defending the freedoms of this country. For more information about this case, go to pji.org. Standing up for freedom, I'm Brad Dacus.
Electric cars. What do you think about them? Are they good for our carbon footprint? We are here with Ted. He's going to break it down for us. Let's talk cars. I love cars. I'm from Texas. 3 of my uncles had body shops. All of my cousins worked in the body shops. We were around cars all the time. They like to drive muscle cars and drive fast cars and roll up their sleeves and get under the hood. Now I pop my Prius and I don't know what's in there. It's just like there's no carburetor I don't see. I mean, I don't even recognize them anymore. Yeah. Is this good? Is this bad?
Well, Prius is a great thing. I'm happy to hear you have a Prius to go along with your flat iron.
Okay, good.
The Prius has basically doubled the efficiency of the typical car, and it's done that with advanced technology. So I think it's I'm very excited that the Prius came on the market so strong and has sold so many cars that have been very reasonable in price. And you and I and all the other Prius drivers are saving lots of money while we're taking care of the environment. So yes, an absolutely fantastic step.
Now the next step from that is the electric car.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And when do I move into that option, and what is that going to do for me?
Yeah, maybe right away. I really applaud all the people that have bought electric cars. They suffer from one very fundamental problem, which is range. That if you have an all-electric car, you might be able to get 100 miles, or I guess the Fisker you can get, or the Tesla, I guess you can get up to 260 or so. But we're used to being able to have more like 400 or 500 miles of range in our electric cars. Electric vehicles are really a cool thing, and they're very common in society. And why are they really cool, to put it in a loose way? An electric motor is about 80 to 90% efficient.
Okay.
Right? That's a fantastic efficiency.
So it's not just wasting a bunch of energy.
An internal combustion engine is about 20% efficient.
It reminds me of, like, if you're sitting by the fire trying to get warm, you know that half the warmth is on the other side.
Right.
Or it's going that way.
Right.
You're only getting like a small little piece of that fire.
Right.
But if you've got like a fan on it, you know, and it's all blowing towards you, then you're not wasting any of it.
That's really true.
Yeah.
So the electric vehicles take advantage of those electric motors, that efficiency of the electric motors that you're describing. And this is not new in the world of mobility.
Okay.
Aircraft carriers are hybrids. Cruise ships
are
hybrids. They use electric motors. They have diesel gensets on board, creating electricity that is then driving electric motors. Our entire Navy is made up of electric vehicles. So now we're really applying. We have been applying that to cars. And what happens is that you can't just say, well, that the car is getting that 90% efficiency, because to generate that electricity that was generated at a power plant, that's 30% efficient. Or let's say the power plant is 40% efficiency. You've got to multiply those efficiencies together. 0.9 times 0.4, that means you're about 36% efficient. But remember I said the internal...
Okay, I just want to let you know, I'm going to admit this, I got a D in business math in college.
Sorry, I hit you with too many numbers. But the bottom line, I almost got to it. The bottom line is that the internal combustion engine is about 15% efficient.
Okay.
And the electric vehicles are about 35% efficient.
So double.
So you typically more than double.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it does
Where
depend
am I plugging this in at? Because I don't know if I could, like, when I get to work, do I look? I mean, I feel like I'd be at Starbucks and you're looking for an outlet that's open because your computer's dying. I mean, does it come to that?
You might well be. It comes with an extension cord, but you might well be looking for a charger. My friend Reed, who lives in Newport Beach, was all excited to get an electric vehicle and was taking the kids off to a swim meet.
Okay.
And he went online and Googled it and figured out exactly how many miles it's going to be to get to the swim meet and back. And all was well until they changed the location of the meet.
Oh no.
And he ran out of juice along the way and had to figure out.
The kids had their floaties on.
Well, whatever. Yeah, exactly. They were hungry and tired and bothered and Daddy, get me home. So there are those limitations, but more and more they're being overcome. There's more and more charging stations that are being put in.
Okay.
There's free charging stations in a lot of locations. And people are putting, to answer your question directly, people are putting chargers in their garages when they have a garage, so they can charge overnight.
How much does it cost to charge a car?
Good question. To
Because
charge
that's
a
what
car.
I'm you know, we know how much gas prices
it's
are.
basically about a third of the cost of buying gasoline for the same car.
Is it really
something
a
like
third
that.
of the cost?
It's something. It really depends
that's
on
great.
which car you're swapping out and which one you're going with.
Yeah.
But you're paying a quarter or
'Cause we
30 cents on the dollar for.
We look at
gas
miles
prices.
per gallon. What do electric cars look at?
Electric cars
Miles per watt?
the EPA has come up with a miles per gallon equivalent,
Okay.
or e-miles, but the miles per gallon equivalent
E-miles, I
tries
like
to put it
that.
on parallel.
It's like iPhone.
So like the new Chevy Volt,
Uh-huh.
which is a combination of electric and internal combustion, but that's getting around 98 miles per gallon. So that's doubling what the Prius gets.
E-miles per gallon.
That's doubling what the Prius gets.
Yeah.
It's quadrupling what the sort of the national average is, and it's probably
Blowing the mind of truck owners.
Yeah,
They're
so-
like, what? My truck gets 10 miles a gallon.
Yeah, and buses too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of reason to be happy about this movement. I think, and I think the Chevy Volt is a great example of a compromise there. That on one hand, it's taking advantage of that electric technology that we talked about, but then it also has a gas tank.
Yeah.
And so when you run out of battery power,
Yeah.
that gas tank is
I like
used to power a small generator that replenishes your battery and keeps you going. So that Volt, I think, has a range of that 400 or 500 miles that we were talking about.
I just heard a study that said that this new generation, they're not getting their driver's license or cars as soon because they're social networking. Remember when we were kids?
Oh, yeah.
We wanted to get in the car so we could get to hang out with our friends.
Yeah.
Now they hang out with their friends online, so they're not getting cars as much.
Interesting.
But I was just thinking, when we even just mentioned trucks, people that drive trucks or big SUVs, they probably drive more than anybody else because they're working out of their truck, or they have that big SUV because they're carpooling and taking the kids every day. They have to have that big vehicle either for their work or their job or for their family. What do people that need? I mean, I'm thinking about this 19-year-old that barely ever leaves the house because they're talking to everybody they know online. Yeah, they can get like a little tiny electric car. But what about somebody who works out of their truck or has a big family that they need to drive around every day? How do they kind of plug into electric cars?
Yeah, well, and I think all cars have gotten more efficient over time, and all trucks have gotten more efficient. So we, as a society, we can celebrate that trend in the right direction. But I love your point about the SUV full of kids going off to the soccer games.
Yeah.
Because really, it's not just miles per gallon in a vehicle; it's miles per gallon per passenger. Right. So if a car, and that dramatically changes the equation. There's good reason to have buses that get
Absolutely.
8 miles per gallon
Because you're taking 100 people.
You're taking, or whatever the number is. So I think we have to be really cognizant of that. But where we've really had a problem in Southern
So
California.
don't throw rocks at all SUVs is what
No,
you're saying. Because
no.
there's more, me and my Prius, I could be creating a bigger footprint than a mom who's got 4 kids and she's carpooling her neighbor's kids.
Exactly.
Because you divide it by each person in the car.
Exactly.
It's good.
Exactly.
It's good stuff.
Now, my friend Roy had a big SUV. He said he needed it for his bicycle. He's really.
Ride your bike wherever you're going. Ride your bike to get there.
I said to him, try putting your bike in the back of my car, my Prius. Try
riding your bike wherever you're going.
Well, that too.
Is he driving his bike to ride his bike?
I'm afraid so.
He's driving his car.
People do drive their cars to the gym all the time, right? It's a little illogical. And
Everybody doesn't live downtown.
They get on a treadmill that's fighting them, and that's using electricity too. So, but let's go all the way back to the whole premise of the hour. Is the electric vehicle going to solve Southern California's transportation problem? No vehicle, no single vehicle is going to solve our problems. We're spread out. We've gotten to a point where we're so dependent on those cars that it almost doesn't matter whether they're gasoline or whether they're a hybrid or whether they're an electric. We're just dealing with the number of cars on the highway and congestion. So fundamentally, what do we need to do? We need to really rethink. How do we create communities with mixed land use development so that you can live near where you work and near where you shop? How do we get to know our neighbors so that we become friends with people that live right around us so we don't have to get in our cars?
Right.
How do we transform society so that mass transit really works? And so
and I like that. I like the way you say that because you're not saying take away everybody's cars. Because when people hear that, they put their keys in their pocket and they hide them. They're like, you're not going to take away my car. Because it represents, like you said, it represents community. and having resources for your family and having a job. And so that independence of that key is something that we really value. But you're saying not take away that,
Right.
but create that closer to you.
Yeah, and so that we can use less and less of that. Here's the simplest transportation tip that I have to lay out there for you, just because I think it's really fun. And every time I say it to people, they go, "Wow, that's really cool." Imagine that you have to do a whole set of errands, right, during the course of the week. Well, it's a brilliant thing to keep a list. I always keep a list, but leave it at home, and But that's another thing. So planning your trips.
I'm like a beautiful mind. I have lists everywhere.
Planning your trips is really, can save. Instead of doing 3 trips to the market, maybe there's 2 trips to the market. That's a big savings. But here's the tip that I leave you with and your viewers with, which is plan your errands so that you're only making right-hand turns.
Oh, interesting.
Because then every time you can do right on red, it's much safer. There's less idling waiting for the left-hand turn.
True.
And now FedEx and UPS and all of the delivery companies,
Is that how they do it?
they're all doing right-hand turns.
That's why my mailman goes that way and then comes back around this way, I bet.
I bet it is. So typically, if you plan trips with right-hand turns, you'll save 5% on your gasoline consumption or your electric consumption if you're driving an EV. You'll save 5% on the footprint of your transportation.
Wow.
And you'll save probably more than 5% on time. So,
On time.
And it doesn't cost you anything. It's just
not,
it's just
you're not
logic.
hobbling me. You're not taking away my car.
That's really what good sustainability solutions are all about, is finding really logical, cost-effective things that cause minimal impact on people. And in this case, it actually makes your trip safer. Now, when I do my bike rides, I always go right on red because it just made it safer. And I'd never really thought of that before.
Yeah, that does that, because we get to plan this stuff out, so that makes sense. It's funny, when sustainability and being more energy efficient, I think when we first started really thinking about this, there was some people that were so radical about it. I think a lot of people got scared that people were trying to take something from us.
Yeah.
But you're saying, no, it's about empowering you to be able to make choices that enrich your life, enrich the quality, give you more time, give you your time back, give you more money back, make it safer, peace of mind.
Ultimately, when we think out 10 years or 20 years. First off, by 2020, by state law in California, every new home is going to be net zero. That means it's going to be energy self-sufficient through a combination of heightened energy efficiency in the house and then solar panels or wind turbines or renewable energy credits, but every home is going to have to be self-sufficient.
By when?
By 2020.
Oh, that'll never get here.
It may not.
No, I'm
right.
just kidding.
Well, they may extend it, but that's a very big goal.
Anytime you hear time that's like more than 5 years away, you're like, oh, that's so far away. It just seems like it's not here yet or coming, but that's really soon. That's only 7 years.
Let me build on the vision, because I have a house up in Glendale. We took our house basically off the grid. We put up solar panels. We invested. We had a very good return. It could have just been done on financial.
Off the grid in Glendale. I thought I had to go out to the desert to do that.
Could have been just done on a financial basis. Next step is to add another 2 kW, 2 kilowatts of solar photovoltaics, so that I can power an electric vehicle. Then I'll have a net zero house.
Are you serious?
And I'll have net zero mobility, right?
And they let you do that in Glendale?
Yeah, and I'm going to do it in such a way that it's going to give me a solid return on my money over time, and I will be doing my bit for the planet.
So you could use solar to power your car.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And
you could have a sustainable house that even powers your car.
That's a really important aspect of this discussion, is that some people are getting electric vehicles and thinking that they're getting zero emission vehicles. Not true. In many parts of the country, that electricity is coal-fired. So you could say, oh, no, this is not zero emission. This is a car powered with coal. But in other parts of the country, it's powered with nuclear. So, we really need to think clearly about when we get electric vehicles, and if we really want them to be part of a deep environmental, passionate investment.
Where's the energy coming from?
It's got to be coupled up with renewables. And that's all very possible today.
This has been a great discussion, Ted. That's really what it's all about, is taking the resources that we have and spreading them out so that we can continue to enjoy them for generations and generations. Thanks for being here with us. We'll see you next time on Joy in Our Town.
This program has been sponsored by the Trinity Broadcasting Network and made possible by your telephone dollars. Your continual support can keep Joy in Our Town brought to your home every day. So write Joy in Our Town, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.